Welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And how about your Philadelphia Union defeating FC Cincinnati by a score of 4-2, thanks to 2 goals by Todd, a goal by Quinn Sullivan, and a goal by Mikael Uhre. I know I went out of order, but what a night it was Wednesday night. This is like take 7 or 8 of trying to go live here on YouTube. I talked about it a couple of shows ago that we would try to go live on YouTube, and that's what we are attempting here right now, live on a Thursday evening. And we're just going to talk FC Cincinnati, Philadelphia Union. The Philadelphia Union are going to go ahead and play Matalan on Saturday at Subaru Park at 7:30 p.m. in the quarterfinals. The winner of that match will go ahead and take on New York City FC and take on Columbus Crew. And so really looking forward to the match on Saturday. Looking forward to the potential semifinals if the Union go ahead and win on Saturday against Matalan. So again, just looking forward to the game. And we have obviously this game to talk about, and we have some clips lined up, and then we'll go ahead and talk about the 3 stars of the night. And then after that, we'll go ahead and just end the show. So as you guys know, we typically do these midweek shows of no news, just straight game, no blunder of the week, and that's exactly what we're getting into here. So without further ado, let's just get into, I guess, my overall thoughts from this game. And I guess we should just start with what happened in the first half for the Union in that game. I think the Union were very fortunate to not be behind in that game. You saw Kubo hit the post. We saw Mikael Uhre have a goal that was ruled offsides in the 4th minute. It was a beautiful finish by Mikael. It was great play on the wings by the Union with Alejandro Bedoya on the right-hand side. You had Mikael Uhre making that run on the left-hand side where he's cutting in past DeAndre Yedlin, and it's a beautiful time run, and it's great awareness by Alejandro Bedoya to see that run. But the linesman says that he was barely offsides, and one thing we got to see in this game was the Union actually had VAR lines in this game. Leagues Cup actually had VAR lines, which was surprising because we never see that in MLS, and they told us, Leagues Cup told us that, hey, look, we have the technology to show the lines, and to their credit, they showed the lines, and Mikael Uhre was barely offsides. It was such a tight call, and credit to the Union for not getting flustered there by that play, for continuing to come in, try to create chances, and I'm happy. I'm looking at comments here by Jose. Comments on YouTube. I believe this is where Jose commented. Yeah, on YouTube. So we are live. I do have confirmation we are live, and it took us a little bit to get there, but we finally figured this out, and it's going to be a work in progress. But yeah, I mean, you look at that chance by Mikael Uhre, and the Union, they didn't let that affect them. They continued to go at Cincinnati, and Cincinnati, like I said, they still had their chances in that game too. I thought Sergio Santos was pretty active in the first half for Cincy. Jacob Glissnes did an excellent job on him all game long, but particularly in that first half, it was multiple block shots, multiple tackles won by Jacob Glissnes. We also saw tackles won by Olivier Bizo, by Jack Elliott, by Alejandro Bedoya. And speaking of Olivier Bizo, who's been in terrific form here the last 7 games for the Union when he's been playing. We know that he played majority of the games because Nathan Harriel was away at the Olympics with the U.S., but we saw Olivier get the start against FC Cincinnati, and I thought he played a pretty good game for the 38 minutes that he was out there, and unfortunately for him, he picked up an injury, and Jim Curtin said after the game to Jose Nunez, he said that he believes that the injury is a muscle injury near the knee, and Jim Curtin wouldn't speculate any further on that, wouldn't go and give us a timetable on exactly how long Olivier may be out for. And tomorrow the Union have their press conference, and so I'm sure there will be plenty of questions asked about how Olivier Bizo is doing, what the scans look like, and Fortunately for them, that was the only injury in this game. But yeah, I mean, nervy moment there for him, nervy moment for the Union where you had Nathan Harriel and Daniel Gosling both go out injured last game against CF Montreal. Nathan Harriel came in for Olivier Bizo against Cincinnati. Daniel Gosling obviously started this game, but it was concerning to see the opposite happen this game with Olivier Bizo coming in for Nate Harriel last game, and now Nate Harriel coming in for Olivier in this game. But Nathan Harriel played fantastic, I thought, all game long. But the first half was promising. It was end to end, and Jim Curtin says it all the time that this isn't how the Union want to play their game. They don't want to play end to end soccer. And for the fans, for I think people covering both these teams, I think that's exciting stuff. You see one team with a chance on the other end, and now the other team goes and counterattacks on the other end. And thank God for Andre Blake, right, to be available and to make these huge saves. And we'll get to the saves here in a second that Andre had in the second half. But yeah, I think from a neutral standpoint, yeah, you love seeing these teams go at each other. You love seeing teams take chances. You love teams not setting too deep, teams that want to play attacking, exciting soccer. And that's exactly what you got here in this game overall. But I thought in the first half, in particularly, yes, obviously you don't get any goals in the first half, goes into halftime 0-0. But then the second half, oh my gosh, I mean, that first goal that the Union scored, the Union win the 50-50 ball that Andre Blake plays from the goal kick, and then it's just good passing and movement by the Union to get that opening goal from Mikael Uhre. It's a fantastic ball played in by Daniel Gosling, the chest down, and then he sees Mikael making that run from the right-hand side. It's a left-footed finish by Mikael, and there's a guy who, it doesn't matter, it seems like it's on his left or on his right. He's clinical, and Mikael, we'll talk about it here in a second. That was his first goal since June 15th, and Jim Curtin was asked about his conversations with Mikael, and we'll hear about that here in a little bit here. But yeah, I mean, who would have thought that the Union would have been the team to strike first in the second half, especially when you look, Luciano Acosta comes onto the field, and this is exactly what the Union fans did not want. This is exactly what the Union didn't want, because Corey Bird is being played out of position in the first half, playing as a left wing back, and we saw the Union attacking that side of the field heavily. I mean, both flanks were attacked heavily, but the Union were attacking Corey's side a lot more than they were on the right-hand side. And to the Union's credit, they try to create chances, couldn't capitalize on anything, and that's fine. They go into half tied 0-0, and Jim Curtin says that all the time. The goal is to get into half tied. If we can lead, great, but we don't want to be trailing. We never want to be trailing, and so that lets the Union go and change their tactics if they need to, continue to play with the same game plan, and the Union did. The Union came out and struck first with Mikael Uhre, and then you look, the next goal with Ty Baribo, and that was a fantastic counterattack goal by the Union's front three, and guys like Uhre and Ty Baribo. And it's back-to-back games, too, that we see the Union hit on the counterattack. You had Jack McGlynn into Ty Baribo last game, and now we had all three of the players, Mikael Uhre doing a good job holding the play up, waiting for Ty Baribo and Daniel Gosling to get for it. And Ty Baribo makes no mistake about that finish. And it's the fourth multi-goal game this season from Ty. 11 goals in 11 starts. I think it's 9 goals in his last 7 appearances. Back-to-back games now with 2 goals. He's been fantastic. Ty Baribo has been fantastic. And we'll talk about the depth here a little bit later about the Union. Looking at, is it good, is it not? And I know that it looks like Jose Martinez is about to be sold to Brazilian side Corinthians, and we're not going to talk about that here at this show. A couple episodes ago, I talked about Julian Kranza, and we talked about him, I feel like, for 25, 30 minutes. And so with Jose Martinez being here since 2020, I feel like he deserves the respect that we gave Julian Kranza. So we're not going to talk about that potential transfer yet until it's official, but from all signs, it looks like it is going to be official. We actually have Jillian here in the comments, so I appreciate you, Jillian, for checking in here. And we're also not going to talk about the town hall meeting. I believe Jillian and her husband Kyle are going to talk about on their show tonight. Last night, the Philadelphia Union had their town hall with Ernst Tenner, Richard Leibovich, Jay Sugarman, Jim Curtin, who I don't believe was scheduled to be at the meeting, but he showed up, and then Tim McDermott. And it seems like from the audio I listened to, some good questions, some bad questions. Again, this isn't going to be the show that we get into that. Tune into the One Team We Agree On with Kyle and Jillian Omni to get their thoughts about that. And I think there's probably going to be other shows discussing that. And yeah, it's just not going to be us here on this show. Maybe Sunday if we have time. But again, there was the end of the transfer window yesterday. A lot of moves got done. So the episode on Sunday is going to focus heavily on transfers that you guys may have missed, transfers you guys should focus on, and then we'll go ahead and talk about if Jose Martinez has been officially sold or not. Sanders and Gabo has been sold by the Union. We'll talk about that on Sunday as well. Nelson Pierre, was recalled from his loan to Charlotte Independence. We can talk about that for a little bit, but again, none of that's going to be the talk for this show. We're talking FC Cincinnati and FC Cincinnati only. So after the Union, long rant, I know. After the Union go ahead and go up 2-0, we see Cincinnati crawl their way back in here. It was a great save by Andre Blake on Luciano Acosta, who we knew was going to cause trouble for this Union back line, because he always does. He's the league MVP. There's a reason why I said on the Battered MLS Fans podcast that I believe he's the best player in MLS. He's a fantastic player. He's a 10 that I wish the Union had, and he is the catalyst that drives Cincinnati forward. It doesn't matter who the forwards are. It doesn't matter who the wingbacks are. Everything goes through Acosta, and we saw that in this game. Andre Blake comes up with a huge save, and then the ball falls to Buka, and he puts it in the back of the net. We saw a lot of ball watching there by the Union defensively once Andre Blake makes that save. And I get it, right? Andre Blake's a fantastic goalkeeper, and we're all stunned by the saves that he pulls off. But you've always got to be aware of where the opponents are. You always got to be aware of, hey, look, Andre might not parry this ball away great. And so you always got to be in good position. The Union weren't. And then Cincinnati get one back. And we see Andre Blake come up with a huge save in the 73rd minute on Kubo. Andre Blake honestly had no reason to save that whatsoever. But we talk about it all the time. That's typical Andre Blake right there. He's giving you at least one save a game, one key save a game. And that was the moment right there on Kubo. And then we see Cincinnati tie the game up in the 79th minute with DeAndre Yedlin. And it's a player that you don't expect to be centrally in the box. And that's exactly what it was. And the Union couldn't do anything about it. But this is what I love about this team, the mentality of this club. We've seen them blow games against Chicago. We've seen them blow leads against Montreal twice. We've seen them blow the lead against Austin earlier in this season. There's been multiple games this season. I believe the Union have dropped 20 points, I believe it is this season. Somebody in the comment section can go ahead and fact check me on that, but I believe it's 20 points this season that the Union have dropped. And to their credit, they don't let the 2-goal blown lead throw them off their game. They go right back down and score a goal with Todd, which has there been a player for the Union in the last 5-6 years that have been in this impressive form like Todd? I'm not sure. I mean, everything he touches winds up in the back of the net, and the Union aren't going to complain about that. The Union are going to continue to ride that. And so, fantastic finisher by Ty Baribo, and then 3 minutes later, Quinn Sullivan adds the fourth to put the Union up 4-2, and that's all she wrote. And it seemed like Cincinnati were stunned. They worked hard to crawl their way back into this game, and they did the same thing when they played New York City last. They were down 2-0 and came away to score 2 goals and eventually win that game against New York City. And they're probably thinking, look, we can do the same thing against the Union, but the Union said, no, not again. We're not blowing another lead. We're not losing another game. Ty Baribo gets a second goal in this game. Quinn Sullivan adds another one. And we can talk about Quinn Sullivan here a little bit more, particularly against or about the depth of this team. Quinn Sullivan's a good player to come off the bench, and yeah, for sure. I would definitely hit on that here a little bit. But yeah, all in all, I mean, an entertaining game by the Union, entertaining game by Cincinnati. And actually, prior to that win, the Union were 0-3-1 in the last 4 games against Cincinnati. Pat Noonan has had Jim Curtin's number. He has known how to beat this team the last time the Union beat Cincinnati was in the playoffs. 1-0. Leon Flock came up with a huge goal in 2022, I believe. That's when the Union beat Cincinnati again. You guys that are in the comments, you guys can fact check me on that, but I believe it was 2022 Leon Flock scored that lone goal against Cincinnati. But all in all, credit to the Union for coming up firing and not being intimidated by the atmosphere of TKL Stadium, which I know was dead. That stadium was not nearly full like it normally is, and um, at times they were loud, and especially when they went up and tied the game 2-2, it definitely got loud. And so credit to the Union for finding a way back after they blew a 2-0 lead in this game. The first topic, though, that I want to talk about that doesn't include my overall thoughts in this game is actually Mikael Uhre. He scored his first goal since June 15th, and it was a big moment for him in this game. We saw a lot of good runs, a lot of good movements by Mikael Uhre in this game. And Jim Curtin was asked after the game, how do you assess his performance when it's been a while since he scored a goal? Things haven't been easy for Ty or for Mikael this season. And what's those conversations been like? And so this is what Jim Curtin had to say on Mikael Uhre.
You can go back through the archives, and he's played a lot of great games for the Union. There's no doubt about that with Mikael. Is there more pressure on him because he's a striker? Yeah, there is, absolutely, and he knows that. And what you see is the few times that we've had real discussions, and it's probably been 5 or 6 times where he'll come into the office, we'll talk, it's honest, it's real. That next game is always like tonight. It's the level that we see Mikael at. He knows he can go there. He goes there the majority of the time, but sometimes I think, like all of us, we need a whatever you want to call it, a kick in the butt, a reminder, encouragement, belief. And, he went out on the field tonight and I thought did a great job. So those conversations are what happen in any team. It's normal. It's healthy. But I don't think it's a coincidence. When he goes through the slightest bit of adversity or a decision going against them, the next time he comes out on the field, and I think he performed great tonight.
Yeah, I agree. I think Mikael Uhre performed fantastically, and people I saw on Twitter saying, "Well, why does Mikael have to have these conversations?" I mean, Jim said it right there, and what you see in the few times that we had real discussions, and it's probably been 5 or 6 times. He'll come into the office, we'll talk. It's honest, it's real. The next game, it's always like tonight. It's that level we see Mikael at, and fans are always pretty hard on Mikael, which I understand. I mean, he's the highest paid player at the club. You paid $2.8 million for him. You expect goals, but Mikael's so much more than those goals. Mikael's runs, which never show up on the stat sheet, right? I mean, stretching the back line. And that Mikael Uhre that we saw against Cincinnati is the Mikael Uhre that we've seen multiple times this season. And that's great stuff there by Mikael. It's not going to impress every fan. I get it, right? And I joked about this on AAT Sports with Jose Nunez and Mike Barrera, where I said he's a expensive Sergio Santos, and yeah, maybe the Union can find a cheaper Mikael Uhre to do exactly what he does. But look, you got this guy through 2025, I believe it is. I'm not looking at the salary contract, but you know that he can provide you goals like he scored against Cincinnati. You know that he's going to have good link up play with these teammates. And look, let's not forget too that Ty Ribeiro and Mikael, they're still learning each other's movements. It's only been what, 9, 10 games that they've played together now, started together this season. And so you add Daniel Gosling into that mix. They're still learning their movements, just like Sam and Dinneron's learning the movements of whoever he's paired with too. So look, things aren't going to be perfect between Mikael, Daniel, and Ty like it was with Julian Kranza in the mix, but I do think that we're seeing that chemistry get better and better. And the one thing on Jose and Mike's show, one of the commenters mentioned was Daniel Gazlag looks like an actual 10. And I agree with that 100%. We saw Daniel come away with 2 assists on the night. We're seeing Daniel, I think, drop deep like he was when Julian was in the squad, but we're also seeing him play through the middle a lot more than what I think he was playing with when Julian was here, because typically we'd see Daniel Gosling drop pretty deep and then he'd make that darting run into the box, and we'd see Julian Kranza do a lot of the same things too, dropping deep to get onto the ball, try to do those 1-2 passes and now make a darting run into the box. And so Daniel seems not to be doing that a lot or as much because his two strikers are staying pretty high up. And you're seeing Jack McGlynn get on the ball more. You're seeing the Union trust him to play make more. Obviously, you have Kai Wagner who's playmaking there more. And so Daniel Gosling doesn't have to drop deep. You can keep him in those central parts of the area. Daniel's so clever at finding the little bit of space that, to poke a ball into the back of the net, to find the space to, connect with your teammates, to play the passes like we saw against Cincinnati. And so the performances by the front three, but I think with Mikael particularly, I mean, that's a huge moment since June 15th to get that goal. First one, it came against Inter Miami, and now gets a goal against Cincinnati. And could this be what Mikael needs to go on a run here? Maybe it is, maybe it's not, but the Union don't need him to go on a run because of the form that Ty Brewer is on. And I'm totally fine with Jim Curtin rotating between Sam Adeniran and Mikael Uhre. It gives the team a different look. If you want to look at a player that can hold up the play, well, you can go to Sam Adeniran. Sam's quite fast too. I mean, I look at Sam and Mikael as the same player, honestly. And again, that's why I want to talk about the depth of this team. We'll talk about that here a little bit later. But if you look at the last 6 games for the Union, they haven't lost a game. They've been in fantastic form here, and I think, could that continue this Saturday against Matsalan? Yeah, I think it could, but I think one thing that I said prior to the League's Cup is I didn't want the regular season to end because the Union had won those games against New England and then Nashville. They were in fine form, and they carry that form over into League's Cup. They were in a tough group, as we know. They scrape out a 1-0 lead or a 1-0 win over Charlotte. They go and get a late equalizer against Cruz Azul. And then they go ahead and beat Montreal comfortably 2-0. And then the Union just absolutely beat the wheels off of FC Cincinnati. This team's been in fantastic form. And after the game, I knew exactly what Jim Curtin was going to say to me, but he loves talking about the defense. He loves talking about the goalkeeping. And so whenever you can give Jim Curtin the opportunity to give praise to those guys, you ask. And so this is what Jim Curtin had to say about why the team's in such good form.
Goalkeeping. That's what we've been for 5 years. We've returned to that, and the rest kind of falls into place. So I think sometimes we overcomplicate things. We make it about formations or who should or shouldn't be playing. But when everybody's here, we're still a really good team. We have a confidence right now. We have a belief. We still have a hard road to go in the regular season. Obviously, we want to make another run at a cup here in the League's Cup. Build confidence off of that. Go into the final 9 games with that confidence, and be us the rest of the way. We dropped way too many points. I take responsibility for that and have all season. We don't like how the season's gone. We've let our fans down. We've let a lot of ourselves down, and it's been really hard and difficult. But we also learned a lot about ourselves too in the hard moments. I think that's the reality of things. That's when you learn what your culture really is, and how guys respond tells you everything about them. And this is a group that's together. Whoever steps on the field does a great job. Do we play perfect soccer? No, but on the road, this is about as perfect as you can play. And I'm really proud of the group.
Yeah, and Jim Curtin's absolutely right. I mean, that's you score 4 goals on the road in a difficult place in TQL Stadium. Of course, that's as perfect as you're going to play on the road. And the Union's last 6 games, they have 16 goals scored for, 4 goals against. Yes, you give up 2 goals against Cincinnati on the night, and we talked about it maybe 10 minutes ago. Credit to the Union's mentality for, yes, you blow a 2-0 lead, but then you come back and score 2 more goals to win the game 4-2. And Cincinnati, like we said, they were upset. The players, the fans were upset to see their team. They don't typically lose at TQL Stadium. I tried to look up the number earlier. Yeah, it's been 20 points this season that the Union have dropped in the regular season. 20 points. Jim Curtin says, he takes the blame for that. But his team these last 6 games, they found their good form. And a big part of that is 100% Andre Blake being back. Jose Martinez being back from Copa America. And again, if you guys are just joining us live here on YouTube, we're now going to talk about the potential transfer of Jose Martinez. We'll save that for when it's official. And I know fans are maybe panicking a little bit if that move does become official. What does this team look like? A player that's been a staple the last 4 years. Again, we'll get into that on Sunday, but one player you know you're gonna have is Andre Blake, and Andre Blake is fantastic. He's the best goalkeeper in MLS. He's always gonna keep you into those games. And Jim said it. But on the road, this is about as perfect as you can play, and I'm really proud of the group. The Union are hitting 500 on the road this season. They're 5-5-5 in all competitions. The only time that they got battered on the road was down in Mexico against Pachuca. That was a terrible performance by the Union on the road. But other than that, I think that they've been in every single game. They were down in Atlanta, come back and tie that 2-2. They should have won against Chicago. You're up 3-1. You blow that lead 4-3. You batter back 3 times against Cincinnati, ultimately lose that match. We're ahead against Montreal. We're ahead against Toronto. Yes, I know you blow the leads in both of those games, but the one thing the Union are doing on the road, they are scoring. They're the second highest scoring team in MLS this season with 24 goals. 24 goals this season on the road in MLS. The team that the Union are scheduled to play on August 24th and the Columbus Crew, they're first in the league with 26. And maybe, just maybe, one of those two teams, if the Union win this game on Saturday, maybe they could potentially play Columbus, and if the Union make their way to the final, then that game on August 24th will be rescheduled to another date. But yeah, regardless, I mean, the Union are such a fun team to watch on the road. And look, I know the Union are out of a playoff spot right now, and they're only a point behind Atlanta, and they'd be in that final play-in game. But let's say that the Union wind up getting the 7th or 8th seed. Yes, they're not going to play many games at Subaru Park, which is disappointing because it seems like the Union have finally corrected things at Subaru Park. But you got to be confident. You got to feel confident with this team on the road. They're sitting 500 in all competitions, 5-5-5. The second highest scoring team in MLS this season on the road with 24 goals. 4 goals against Cincinnati. This is a good team. Can you argue a great team on the road? Maybe. I think Jim Curtin's done a fantastic job the last 2-3 years just to get this team's mentality right on the road, where they talked about it this year, where it's less pressure playing on the road, and that's why you've seen them play with a little bit more freedom as opposed to Subaru Park, and why they're never afraid on the road. And that's only going to help them the farther they go the rest of the season if they have to play majority of their games on the road in the playoffs. Again, I know the Union aren't in the playoffs right now. They sit 1 point out of a playoff spot for the playing game, but every time the Union go on the road, you got to feel like they're in the match. And that's exactly what they were in against FC Cincinnati. The mentality of this team is just insane on the road. Insane to go and score those 2 goals and make it 4-2. And we've talked about that plenty of times, but yeah, this team's really exciting to watch. Yes, you get Andre Blake back. Yes, you get Jose Martinez back. You continue to ride the hot wave of Todd Ribero's hot form. Daniel Gazag's been in fine form. This team's just playing really, really good soccer. And I guess that brings up the final topic that I want to talk about. And that topic is the depth of this team. And again, I know there's been moves that the Union have already announced. There's the potential move of Jose Martinez. Now I've mentioned that for the 10th time. I continue to tease you guys about that. Continue not to mention it here on the podcast. Talk about it whenever it's official. But I still think, regardless of the moves that the Union have made, I do think that their depth is pretty good, and it could potentially be the most depth that we've ever seen the Union had. Jose Nunez asked Jim Curtin after the game to comment on Quinn Sullivan's performance coming off the bench, and then the injury update to Olivier Bizo. And so Jim Curtin talks about the depth of the squad right here.
When we have our full group available to choose from, I think you can see guys are hungry to come off the bench. You saw it against Montreal. You see Jack McGlynn come in and contribute and make an impact. You saw Sam do a good job. Mikael came in and helped us. So, and then it flips, and now the opposite happens with Quinn coming off the bench. He makes 2 big plays, gets a goal and an assist. So you need your full squad. I still say when our full group is here, even minus Julian right now, we have a really deep, strong group, and we utilize that. Unfortunately, Olivier picks up an injury, so we get a little bit thin again at the back, especially. But I think it's a minor injury. I don't want to speculate, but he pointed to that kind of outside of the knee, not knee damage, more on the muscle that kind of connects there. So hopefully it's a minor muscle injury and not anything that needs a significant recovery or even a surgery. So thought Olivier did a good job up till then. The thinking there was, Nate, with the mental, physical fatigue of the Olympics, a tough game against Montreal, we made a change. It worked out tonight. But we'll have to regroup, put together a strong team to prepare for whoever our next opponent is, either Cruz Azul or Mazatlan.
And so we already know who the Union play this Saturday. It's Mazatlan, as they won on penalties against Cruz Azul, which, why couldn't they have done that against the Union? And the Union could have gone and taken care of business and knocked them out of the competition. I mean, that's what the Charlotte fans were complaining about, saying, come on, Union. Like, you guys couldn't beat them on penalty kicks. You guys get that late equalizer, and all the Charlotte fans are saying, yeah, we're big fans of the Union right now because of Daniel Gazdag. We're huge Daniel Gazdag fans, and yeah, the Union obviously lose on penalty kicks, just like Cruz Azul lose on penalty kicks, and now the League's Cup run is over. But the depth of the team, it's fantastic. It is really, really fantastic. I mean, you just knew when Elsinio was on the team that was always going to be Jim Curtin's first planned sub. And then once Elsinio left, sometimes that planned sub would be Anthony Fontana. But then after both players left the club, then it would always be Corey Burke. You always knew Corey Burke was coming off the bench. You knew that Sergio Santos, when he wasn't starting, would be a player coming off the bench. Everybody knew Jim Curtin's planned subs, but I think now you look and Jim Curtin can go many different ways in a starting lineup. You can bring Quinn Sullivan off the bench like we saw against Cincinnati. You can bring Sam Adeniran off the bench like you did against Cincinnati. Olivier Bizo came off the bench against Montreal. Nate Herriot came off the bench this game because of that injury. Leon Flock, you can bring him off the bench to close out games. You can come and bring Danley John Jock off the bench. I do think he will start once he gets his visa issues figured out. Jim Curtin, I'd imagine, is going to give us an update tomorrow on where things stand in terms, okay, did the Union register Danley in time? Did they not? But regardless, we know, well, hopefully he'll be playing in MLS if the whole visa situations were taken care of. But look, the point is, you didn't have plenty of players that at least I feel confident in. I don't know how you guys feel, people listening, people that are watching live on YouTube and Facebook. I do feel like the Union have plenty of options, plenty of players they can bring off that bench if they're chasing a goal. And Jim Curtin actually mentioned it in his press conference, I think, leading up to this game, that, look, even Kevin Sullivan can come and change games. They haven't had a player that has the 1v1 ability that Kevin has since Elsinio. And so, yeah, maybe Kevin Sullivan's going to be that player if the Union are down on goal. Maybe Kevin comes off the bench and provides a spark of magic. Looked good in his 5 minutes or however long it was against New England, and that's the last that we saw of him with the first team. But over this weekend against Chicago Fire 2, Kevin had an assist, and the one thing that I'm just always so impressed with is his dribbling ability, how close he's able to keep the ball at his foot. And of course, you're not going to have that much time, that much space when you play against first-team players, against pros that have been playing for 5+ years. players that know MLS inside and out. But yeah, maybe Kevin Sullivan can also be that game changer off the bench. But the good thing is that the Union, if they go down, they have players that can get them back into the game. If the Union want to shore things up defensively, they have plenty of players on that bench too. And we've seen Jim Curtin switch to a three in the back, bring Damian Lowe off the bench to try to close things out too. And Jim said it there in the quote. I will say when our full group is here, even minus Julian right now, we have a really deep, strong group and we utilize it. And we saw Jim utilize all of his substitutes against Cincinnati. I think he used all of his substitutes against Montreal too. I don't know. Again, you guys keep me in line. Fact check me on YouTube. That's why we're doing this. So I'm not just talking out my butt. You guys can go ahead and co-produce and let me know what's going wrong, what's not going right on the stats that I'm throwing your way. But yeah, regardless, a lot of depth by the Union. I think that it's going to help this team go a long way. I honestly do. I really think this depth's going to help this team. And yeah, you look like you're not going to have Jose Martinez. It's a huge blow. I get it. It's a huge blow, but you have Leon Flock, you have Jesus Bueno that can fill in there, that can play that sixth role. And yes, Leon Flock doesn't have the passing ability that Jose Martinez has, but like personally, okay, that's fine. You sit Jack McGlynn deeper. You get Jack playing a little bit deeper. You let him be that deep lying playmaker. In my opinion, that is what Jack McGlynn does best. Let him sit deep. Let him ping balls across all the field. Let him unlock defenses. You do that, and you're golden. And we have seen Jack McGlynn do that at times this season. We know Kai Wagner can unlock defenses. The Union have a lot of creative players on the left side of the field where you're okay with Leon Flock not playing those balls that Jose Martinez was playing. You let Leon sit deep. You let him protect that back line. Jesus Bueno can come in and protect that back line. He has a little bit better passing range, I would say, than Leon Flock. But the point of the matter is you have players that can fill in for Jose Martinez. It's a huge player that you're potentially losing. But the Union have it covered. And I don't look at Danley John Jock as being that replacement player for Jose. I look at Danley being as one of the eights, which is fine. You need a player that's going to be good in transition, going from defense to offense, a player that's going to win those tackles back for you and keeping teams pinned into their own half of the field, which is what Leon Flock would do as he's playing as an eight, which, okay, that's fine. You now get that on the right side of the field, and, maybe you keep Kai Wagner a little bit higher up the field on the left-hand side because you have Leon Flock that's going to sit deep no matter what. So, I'm not concerned with the rumors of Jose Martinez potentially being sold because I think the Union have plenty of depth and they address their striker situation with Sam Adeniran. You guys, the fans, did not feel comfortable with Chris Donovan coming off the bench. You didn't feel comfortable with Marcus Anderson coming off the bench. Jim Curtin doesn't even feel comfortable with Marcus Anderson coming off the bench. And so now they have a player that I get it, hasn't scored yet with the Union, but he's getting in the right positions. He's getting good opportunities. And a goal is going to come. Maybe it comes this weekend. Maybe it comes Saturday. Because wouldn't you rather see Sam making those runs, being in the right spot? Yes, it's tough that he's not putting the ball in the back of the net. But at least he's aware of where he should be. And for a player that's not even been here a month yet, that's still learning the formation, still learning his teammate, I think he's picked up how the Union want to play, the space where he should attack. I think he's picked that up pretty quickly. And so that's a credit to Sam Adeniran for exactly, getting used to his teammates pretty quickly, I would say. So yeah, depth, not concerned about it whatsoever about the Union. So the last thing that I'll touch on here, and then we'll go ahead and end the show, is the 3 stars. And I think everybody that's listening, everybody that's in the comment section, I think you guys would agree. Number 1 on the night, Andre Blake. Fantastic performance by Andre Blake in the goal. Those huge saves in the second half that we talked about. Yeah, he had some easy saves, wasn't really tested that much in the first half. But he made those saves. Regardless, he made the saves, but they weren't difficult saves at all. Still made them, You can't say the same for some of the goalkeepers that we've seen play for the Union this season. Saves that they should have been making, they didn't make. And with Andre Blake, he's going to make those saves. Number 2 on the night, Daniel Gazak, 2 assists. Again, we talked about it already, where he is that creative 10 that the Union have needed. he's actually creating chances. He's scoring goals. That's great, but he's getting in those right positions. He's getting the assist. He's getting in the green zone that Jim Curtin constantly talks about. Fantastic performance by Daniel Gazdag against FC Cincinnati, and then Ty Baribo, 2 goals. This guy, like I said at the beginning of the show, has there been a time, a player, a moment in Philadelphia Union history where a player's been in better form than what Ty Baribo is in right now? I don't think so. I honestly don't think so. And the Union are going to continue to ride that. Fans said, well, now we got to replace Julian Kranza. No, you don't. You had that player in Ty Baribo. And we'll see if the Union can go ahead and continue to run this 6-game unbeaten streak and potentially win a trophy. We talked about it on AAT Sports. Would it be a successful season if the Union win Leagues Cup but don't make the playoffs? Absolutely. I said it in my prediction episode at the beginning of the season. Winning a trophy is the minimum the Union must do this year. And if they win Leagues Cup, that's great because they qualify for CONCACAF Champions Cup. And that is the one competition the Union cannot miss out on. They have to be in CONCACAF Champions Cup with the amount of money that the team earns being in that competition. And so, yes, feeling high, feeling good about where things are right now for the Philadelphia Union. But I have full confidence that, they're going to continue to play good soccer. And, maybe they don't win Leagues Cup, but I have every confidence that this run that they've won on in this competition, that they're going to carry that over into MLS Cup. Or MLS, I should say. We would love for them to get to MLS Cup, but into the regular season with 9 games remaining, you got to feel good with where things are right now for the Union. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod, wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick. Go ahead and check out the YouTube channel. I know you guys are watching live on YouTube at Free Kick Pod. And again, The Free Kick, wherever you get your podcast. And for everybody that's joined live, I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in live. And it's 7:23. So here in 9 o'clock, so it's almost an hour and a half. I'll be live once again on YouTube, but this time right here, link in the description on the Battered MLS Fans live on YouTube, 9 p.m. We're going to talk about Mauricio Pochettino going and becoming the United States men's national team manager, supposedly. Going to go ahead and talk about Leagues Cup, the favorites to win this competition. So there's going to be plenty of Philadelphia Union talk on that show, guaranteed. I will definitely give Ty Baribo his flowers because I can't believe Chris and Danny did not use Ty Baribo's picture in their little graphic that they make for the videos. I'm like, come on, this dude's been, in my opinion, the hottest player in Leagues Cup. And yeah, I haven't watched a ton of other games this season. But again, live 9 p.m., Battered MLS Fans, live on YouTube, 9 p.m. But with that said, my name is Todd, and this is